Good evening. I'm going to talk about happiness tonight in a little different vein. I didn't bring my guitar with me. I have no slides, and I have nothing prepared. So we're just going to sort of talk a little bit about happiness. Actually, I'd like to start on a note which is not very happy, because I think that life actually is sad. You know, life is really full of a lot of suffering, and we all know that. I don't think there's a person in this room who doesn't have suffering either now or at some point in their lives. And my life started that way very much. When I was 11, I had an abscess in my brain and I nearly died. And the doctors told my parents, this kid's probably going to die. Fortunately, I didn't. But as a result of that experience, the neurosurgeon who saved my life, I think he operated 4 times on me, I wanted to be like him, you know? And that's actually why I became a doctor. There wasn't a history in my family of doctors. So I became a doctor because I really wanted to do what he did, you know, save people's lives and help people. So I did that. And then I found that it wasn't quite enough. You know, to work on the physical body was not quite enough. So I got interested, sort of, somehow some books came to me when I was young, when I was an adolescent, on Zen Buddhism. And they just moved me deeply. I didn't understand that, but they moved me deeply. And then slowly I got involved in Buddhism. And now I'm a Buddhist monk. And sometimes I have to pinch myself and I say, what am I doing? And I have the great fortune to spend a lot of time with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is an amazing individual. In some ways, he's not human. I take care of him. I'm one of his doctors, and I get to be with him sort of intimately, and I realize that this person has something very, very special. So I want to know, what is that? This man is truly happy. He's truly happy. And he deals with so much suffering, people coming out of Tibet that have been tortured, and you know, I see it, they cry and they cry. They just break down in front of him. It happens almost every day of his life. And they tell the horror stories, and he listens very compassionately and loving. And this man, it doesn't faze him in the sense that he doesn't get down. He's very, very happy. So why? What's going on here? So, I mean, I don't really know, but I have a few little things that I'd like to talk about tonight. Firstly, I have to sort of say this as a doctor, and I believe it's true. We have to take care of our bodies. We have to be physically healthy as best we can. Some things, of course, we can't control, but the best we can. In my case, I let it slide for many years thinking I was a yogi, and I'm not. I didn't eat well and, you know, all that stuff, and I got very thin and had lots of problems health-wise. Now they're doing much better because I'm taking care of my body. I'm eating well, I'm exercising. That's important. Those of us that are parents, monks, we don't marry, I don't have children, but those of us that are parents, it's very, very important to love our kids, to really give them affection. It's not enough just to feed them and give them some pocket money and be away at work as the kids grow up. It's not enough. That robs the kid of the potential happiness. We need to really pay attention, spend time with our kids, and really shower them with affection. Now, they may become spoiled kids. That's a problem, right? We need some discipline, but we really need to give them affection, because children get affection when they grow up. As they grow up and when they're adults, are happier, okay? So don't rob them of that experience, please. Affection for children is extremely important. And now what I really wanted to talk about is, how can we enhance the kind of happiness that we already have? I mean, sometimes it's not there. We suffer a lot, we hit lots of obstacles, we have too high expectations, we don't know where home is, and you know, we suffer a lot, we have a lot of problems, but sometimes we're happy. How can we enhance and make that happiness richer so that our lives are more meaningful, and that happiness just naturally goes out to those that are around us, and they get sort of a contact high, you know? Well, what I want to talk about is this. I want to talk about first, I want to mention some medical studies. I want to mention some medical studies that show happiness is actually related to good health. Several decades ago, there were some very important studies with women with breast cancer, divided into 2 groups. Both groups got the standard treatment when indicated: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy. Same in both groups. One group, in addition, got TLC. It's an old term, means tender loving care. Yeah, they got love. Okay. And it turns out that that group that got the love, they were happier. Okay? Not only were they happier, but they lived longer. They lived longer. So it actually helped them have, better health, even in the face of suffering from breast cancer. Many studies have now been done on the immune system. The immune system is enhanced. It's better, it's stronger when we're happy. When we're not happy, the immune system plunges. So what does the immune system do? It helps us fight infection, number one. Number two, there's a surveillance thing that goes on every day, every moment of our lives that is looking for cancer cells in our blood. And we make them all the time. Most of the time, they never really congeal, grow and become really a cancer problem for us because of our immune system surveillance. Well, if the immune system is enhanced through happiness, it makes sense. We don't know this yet. Studies are going on. We don't know it for sure. But it makes sense that cancer will be decreased. Okay? If the immune system is strengthened through happiness. So happiness is a good thing. I think most people would agree with that. That happiness is a good thing. We want to be happy. We don't know how to become happy. Generally, the things we look for don't bring us to happiness. All the different choices that we heard about tonight, just makes us more confused. Higher expectations, and then we're always going to be let down, or at best, we'll meet that high expectation, but not surpass it. So how do we then find happiness? I don't know. How we find happiness. But there is one avenue that might, bring something that's kind of lovely in our lives, and that's warm heart. Warm heart. Everybody in this room knows when you've opened your heart, you've done something for somebody else that they've appreciated, you feel good. You feel happy. It's almost too simple, but I think it's really true. So how can we open our hearts more and become more happy? Well, I want to give one little approach that is kind of fun. And that is you can divide all the world, the people and the animals, into three groups. Okay? First group are those that we feel really close to, those that we love, we care for. Usually those others care for us. Maybe family, maybe a spouse, a child, a parent, a good friend, teachers, something like that. Now, the second group are those that are sort of neutral. We don't know. Like I've met a few of you tonight. We had a lovely dinner earlier. It was a delicious dinner, and we had wonderful conversation. So I know a few of you, but most of you I don't know. We've not met before. I don't know your names. I don't know anything about your whole story, your whole life. I don't know. So that second group is kind of neutral. We don't know. People we don't know. Animals we don't know. Third group are those that in Japan they say they're rubbing your nose. And my nose is big, so it's easy to get rubbed. We say in your face, or pushes your buttons. People we don't like, people we're not comfortable with, people that if we had the option, we sort of walk the other way and go around, and try to, I don't want to look at them. Hope they don't see me. Okay, so that's the third group. So, how do we become happy by looking at people and animals in these three groups? Well, what we're talking about here now is how do we see kindness in others? Okay? How do we see kindness in others? Well, in that first group, it's kind of easy because we usually see that first group of people as kind. That's why we love them, right? Because they're kind to us. They're nice to us. So that's not too difficult to see. But then the second group, we don't know. We say, well, they're not kind to me. What are you talking about? So if we kind of shift a little bit our attitude and reframe our thinking, a little bit of a paradigm shift in terms of our attitude and our thinking, we can approach it slightly differently, and we can have a slightly different flavor of this group of so-called neutral, people we don't know, animals we don't know. What we can do is we can shift our thinking this way. Everything that we, depend on every day comes from somewhere. For example, I was, earlier today, I had a cup of tea. I live in India, so tea has become a part of my life. I have no choice. So I had a cup of tea earlier. Now, if I just think, normally I don't think about it. I just take the tea. Is it taste good? Good, I'll have more. It doesn't taste good, I'm finished. Okay? And that's one way to approach it. But if I start to think, where does tea come from? Well, earlier today someone made me a cup of tea and they handed it to me. So that person was being very kind. I didn't know that person. Okay. Well, where did that person get the tea from? Well, she went into the shelf or something and got a tea bag and boiled some water. Well, where did the tea bag come from? You start tracing it back, and you go back to fields, tea plantations, maybe in India, maybe in China, somewhere, where people had to till the land. Lots of insects, worms lost their lives in that process. Then they had to put fertilizer, they had to water it, they had to plant the seeds to get these plants of tea. Then they had to harvest the tea. I've seen it near Dharamsala, they harvest it. They're bent over like this all day, and they got big baskets on their backs, usually women, and they're plucking one leaf, and throw it in all day, for days, to harvest this tea. Then it has to be somehow, it has to be processed, it has to be dried, and then processed, and then packaged, and then transported. Well, how do all those things happen? Just take the truck, the big truck, that transported the tea from that plantation to some packing house, so it could be packaged, and then sort of marketed. Just take that truck. Well, I like to use in Japan the example of a Mitsubishi truck. Right? Came from Mitsubishi factory, right? Mitsubishi factory is huge. How many people work in Mitsubishi factory? Thousands, right? They all have families, okay? So right away, just drinking one cup of tea, I'm so dependent on so many others that I don't know for one cup of tea. Now, I eat more or drink more than one cup of tea a day. I have 3 meals a day. I have clothing that I wear. Right? I have chairs that I have to sit in sometimes when I'm listening to beautiful music. Or I have books that I want to read that are made of, from trees, etc. And all the things, the electronic kind of stuff that we use, these are complex things that require so many people's thought and implementation to get these complex things like cameras and with all the the cell phones that really are not simple, right? They have so many different gadgets and so many different things. This comes from the effort of so many people that I don't know. So if we begin to think this way about that second group that we say we don't really know them, kind of neutral, we begin to think that, wow, this is quite something. They've done all this for me. And then you say, oh, wait a minute. They didn't do it for me. They don't know me. They did it because they're making a salary. They got kids to feed. They've got a life that they've got to sustain every day. Pay the mortgage, pay the gas, pay the insurance, everything. So they didn't do it for me. They didn't intend to do it for my benefit. Then you say, okay, that's okay, no problem. That's right, they didn't. But still, had they not made that effort, I wouldn't have got that cup of tea. I wouldn't have had that camera, that clothing, that house, that car, on and on and on. So many people and animals come together to allow me not only to survive every day so I don't die, but to thrive and to enjoy and to prosper and to be educated. So in that way, that whole group of sort of neutral, so-called neutral people, all of a sudden we can see there's actually some kindness, unintentional, nevertheless kindness that they're showing me. Third group of people. You may say, nuh-uh. You can't convince me this third group of people are actually kind. These guys are my enemies. Whatever I can do to stave them off and give them the hardest time possible, that's what I want to do. And they show me no kindness. In fact, they show me exactly the opposite. Well, is that really true? Well, that's our ordinary way of thinking, what I just said. That's what we ordinarily react and think. That those so-called enemies, I want nothing to do with them. They're not kind to me at all. The opposite, they're trying to harm me. And in the worst case, maybe even trying to kill me. Okay? Well, that's our normal way of thinking, right? Normally we're not very happy, so maybe our normal way of thinking is limited. So if we start to think like this, that group, that third group, in some way they actually are being kind to us. How? Anybody here in the room never get angry? Raise your hand. I rarely see a hand at all, and if I do, I wonder, is that person really being honest? We all get angry. Yeah, that's part of life. We get frustrated, we get upset, we get irritated, and it happens often many times every day. That we may not express it, but we may be boiling inside. Yeah. So that getting angry, we don't like it. Anybody like getting angry? Not really. Sometimes you feel bold, you get angry. Oh, I got it. I feel strong, Oh no, what did I do? Stupid. We feel regret right away. We don't feel good about being angry. And it robs us of our peace. Our blood pressure goes up, our pulse rate goes up, we get red in the face, we start shaking and sweating, and all we can think about is red when we really get angry. So we're not peaceful, we're not happy, we're not calm and relaxed when we get angry. So anger actually is an obstacle for us. In the Buddhist system, it's also a long-term obstacle because that brings a lot of negative stuff for us in the future if we get angry. But certainly even in the present moment, when we get angry, we don't feel good, we don't like it. So how can we kind of begin to work on our anger, reduce it a bit, so we can actually feel more happy? Well, when other people are in our face, we have an option. We can, like the knee-jerk, automatically just get angry, retaliate. Or we have a choice. We can say, I'm not going to react that way. I'm going to react with tolerance and patience. I have a choice. So I try that. I tell myself, okay, now I'm getting irritated. I'm in this situation. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get angry. I'm not. I'm going to act with patience and tolerance. And then, boom, I get angry. Doesn't work the first time. We got to do it again and again. It's training. Anybody ever run a marathon in here? Anybody do it after one day of training? How many years did you train before your marathon?
6 months.
Thank you. 6 months. That's incredible. But I'll bet before 6 months, you'd been doing a lot of running for before that.
5 years.
It takes training every day, doesn't it? Hours every day. The mind is no different. Training the mind is no different than training the body. It takes regular, meditation. The actual meaning of meditation is familiarization. It's training, doing it every day, doing something positive every day, getting the mind used to it, training it. So in that way, these people that are in our face, rubbing our noses, really get us upset, these become our teachers because they help us practice patience and tolerance, and they help us become less angry and more happy individuals. Thank you very much.